Kamen Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Kamen Rider here. Welcome to my review for the series finale of Kamen Rider Zero-One, or at least the series finale of the proper series run, which we'll get to. And this episode was fine. I thought it was a solid finale for the series, a bit generic, seemingly a little bit rushed. Let's talk about it. Obviously, that's why we're here. It basically centered around the fight between Hirobi and Aruto, and how it represented the fight between humans and their Alexas. Because they're talking about, like, you see the human gears and the humans fighting, and they talk about how all this malice is feeding into it. You know, it's like when your computer's going really slow and you're like, just work! Like, that's the malice they're talking about. It's coinciding with Hirobi and Aruto fighting, and how they're both on opposite ends, and then they've both experienced their Roombas being destroyed, because Jin's got destroyed and Izu's got destroyed, and kind of tying them together and the similarities and the differences. And then obviously the stuff is brought up, and you know, the parallels between Aruto being raised by the Human Gear dad, who he has like a vision of, or not a vision, he has like a flashback to showing what happened before when he kind of talked to him, and then with the driver, when he got the driver, which comes into play here in a minute. But there's a flashback of that, and then there's obvious parallels to the father-son relationship between Jin and Hirobi. So like basically all of that stuff comes to a head in this fight. All of those themes of the father and the son and the human gears and the humans are in this fight, as they're fighting to, not the death, you know what I mean, because it's Toku. And that's basically the centerpiece of the episode. That's what everything else is surrounding, and that's really the bulk of what happens, is just this fight. And a little bit of setup at the beginning. There's a couple scenes of the others being like, oh, we gotta bring Jin and Izu back or whatever, and then the epilogue. But the core gist of this episode is basically just the fight between these two. And then, like I said, there was that flashback scene of him talking to his fake Human Gear dad with the earmuffs. And then Hirobi's like, I am all the Human Gears. And Naruto's like, and I am Premium Bandai. So just in time for the finale, we sneak in one more Premium Bandai item for the finale, which is like a special version of the driver, and mainly the progress key more so, that gives him a special like enhanced version of his original base form. So not only does he want to leave you with one last Premium Bandai item to get, but he also wants to leave you with yet another debate of what is the true final form. Sequel to Puto Tira. So like the final form is the base form, like it's a cycle. It's like, you can debate about that, I'm not trying to debate about that, I just thought it was funny. It was kind of a cool scene though when he transformed. It did like this half face thing where it kind of stopped and went over his face, and it looked really cool. Like when it was transforming, it just slowly went over, and it looked really neat. And I like the base form, and I always like to see them at some point before the end of the finale, although I think 02 was a little bit wasted. Not like it was drunk. It wasn't used very much, which is in part the fault of the fact that the episode count got cut short from what they were planning and stuff like that. It just felt like ultimately it was rather useless, because like not long after he got it, he became this arc puppet thing, and then now he's got this form. But I'll talk about that more in the series review. So it was cool seeing the base form and the way it came about. It does kind of suck that they're trying to sell you one last toy. Like, it really takes you out of it in a way, because most of the series, we're used to Toku trying to sell us stuff, right? We've all accepted that to some degree. I still stand by the fact that I think they could balance that a lot better than they do. But it's just something you accept. But usually, the finale episodes are about, you know, the finale and about the story, but this one felt like, oh, here's one last toy. Defeats him and he spares his life, and then we get kind of an epilogue-y bit of where everyone is. You know, Aruto's a CEO, we're working to a better future with humans and their human gears, and Fua saves a lady in a car. Valkyrie is like training people to be future defenders and Kamen Riders. Jin and Hirobi, Jin's back, they revived Jin, don't worry about it. And then Hirobi's like, Metsuro Jinrai Net is revived, and we're gonna stop Malice from ever starting up again, so Arc can't revive. And then you have, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, you have Dark Izu, who's still there, giving a driver to this dude for the Eden thing to become Kamen Rider Eden, which was supposed to be in the movie, and like just as of this, when I'm recording this today, they announced that like the movies that got delayed because of everything are coming out spring of next year. So they basically had a bit of a cliffhanger here, which is kind of interesting. But then like the very last scene is them reviving a new version of Izu. It's kind of like they got a new computer, but they couldn't transfer their favorites. Like, they lost their external hard drive, but they're gonna basically bring her up to speed, so she's the same thing. So her name is, they gave her the same name and everything. I'm gonna call her Tuzu. And then you end the series with him talking to her about how he's gonna catch her up to speed, and like them doing jokes together, which was kind of a nice bookend for the series, since I think that was one of the core dynamics of the series, was the chemistry between those two actors, and was kind of a nice scene to end on. It's kind of weird because it was very cliche. Like, you know, no real surprises. I mean, the Eden stuff. But I mean, in terms of the main plot, it was exactly what I expected. In a way, I guess, I thought it was going to be a little bit more cheesy kumbaya, but which actually is kind of nice in a way. That it was like, you know, we're still going to work toward a better future, but it wasn't overly like, oh, everything's fine now, we're going to work together with our can openers, and we're just all going to be friends and hold hands. I like that it just kind of ended on a note of like, we're just going to always strive to be better with it. But it was like this generic finale with like really predictable endings and nothing really surprising or groundbreaking, but then you have like this bit of a cliffhanger there with Eden because of the way they're doing the movie, and it's not unheard of, but it is kind of weird. And you know, most recently in like recent years, like we've had V-Cinemas and other follow-ups that act as sort of an epilogue, like next finale, so it's not unheard of, but it definitely seems kind of strange to have this very bookend finale and then you're leaving the door open for the movie. So like if you want to see the final conflict, you gotta watch the movie, which was kind of strange. But you know, that's gonna be happening in spring. But like overall, I thought it was a fine finale. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of the series overall, but it was enjoyable, it was fitting for the series. I would give it a 7. I will be doing a series review that I hope to get out this week, probably this weekend. I'd like to have it out right before Saber premieres, so I can sort of close the book on Zero-One before we officially start. I almost said Zero-Two. Yeah, Zero-Two was there, but like 4 seconds. But before we start Saber, so I can just sort of close the book on that and give my overall thoughts, because I kind of held back some stuff that I wanted to talk about overall. But yeah, like I said, a 7. It was generic, it was enjoyable. I definitely felt a little bit rushed, and I wanted to bring that up because they did get their episode count cut short, but I don't necessarily think this means Toko always needs as many episodes it does. I still think they get more than enough episodes, sometimes too much. I think 45 episodes was plenty. I didn't want to deal with 3 to 5 more episodes of them preaching to me about my Roomba. But I wanted to address that because I wanted to say that I think parts of it were a little bit rushed, and then stuff with the Zero-Two stuff was a little bit condensed because they got episodes cut, but I don't think that's because 45 episodes isn't enough. I think it's because of the way they got 45 episodes, because they were already like deep into the series when they had to shut down production for a while, so I think that's why it ended up happening. But I think everything would have felt perfectly fine for the most part if they had known they were getting 45 episodes right out the gate, and I wanted to bring that up. But anyway, until next time, let me know what you guys think, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.